Welcome to our deep dive. Today, we're looking into Burkina Faso, a country in West Africa that's, well, sparking a lot of different reactions.
Yeah, the narratives are really conflicting, aren't they?
Totally. From outside, you often hear reports about instability and maybe even danger.
Right, but then our sources on the ground paint let's say, a very different picture.
Exactly. They talk about this young leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, and some are calling him a revolutionary, even comparing him to Sankara.
The second coming of Sankara, yeah, that phrase keeps popping up. It's quite something.
And consider this paradox. It's Africa's fourth biggest gold producer,
Huge reserves.
but nearly 40% of the people live below the poverty line. How does that even work?
It's a stark contrast, and that's the backdrop for Traoré's rise in 2022. He's only 36 now, became Africa's youngest head of state, right in the middle of all this.
So who is he really?
Well, that's what's fascinating, isn't it? The clash between that external view and what people there seem to be experiencing.
So our mission today really is to get past the headlines.
Yeah, unpack these sources, see what's actually happening through the eyes of the administration's policies, and, understand this connection he seems to have with the people.
Okay, so to really get Traoré, we probably need a bit of history, right?
Definitely. You have to look back.
It used to be Upper Volta, French colony, got independence in 1960.
But, our sources suggest that for many, real self-determination, that feeling of it didn't quite click until 1983.
Ah, Sankara.
Exactly, Thomas Sankara. His influence is still massive today. He was incredibly young, very bold, big Pan-African vision.
Believing in African unity, self-reliance.
Right, free from outside influence. And he's the one who renamed it Burkina Faso, land of the upright people.
Such a powerful name.
It really is. But his time was short, just 4 years. Assassinated in 87.
And that led to decades of instability.
Pretty much. Power struggles, shifting alliances. It was a long period.
Okay, so fast forward almost 35 years after Sankara, 2022, and Captain Ibrahim Traoré emerges.
It takes power at just 34. Africa's youngest leader.
And his promise was pretty direct. Not to please the West, but to do right by his people.
And that detail about him reportedly taking only a captain's salary, not a president's.
Yeah, our sources mentioned that. That must have resonated, right? Bolsters that populist image.
Absolutely. It signals a different approach.
So once he's in charge, things change fast.
Oh, yeah. Immediately. Very striking moves.
French troops expelled.
Gone. Foreign media suspended France, 24. RFI.
And restrictions on foreign NGOs, too. It feels like a very deliberate break from the past.
It certainly seems that way. A clear signal about sovereignty.
And this wasn't just happening inside the country, right? It affected foreign relations, too.
Definitely. Our sources point to this strategic alignment with Russia and also neighboring states that are similarly, let's say, anti-Western or pushing for more independence.
But it's important how they frame this relationship, isn't it? Not just about aid.
Exactly. It's crucial. They stress it's not about handouts. It's focused on getting technology, especially for defense, resource extraction, and sharing expertise.
That phrase, brain information knowledge, came up in the sources.
Yeah, it implies training, strategic advice, that kind of thing, not just money.
And this idea of everyone being equal under the law seems quite central, too.
Very much so. There was that anecdote about a Chinese national caught for a traffic offense.
Having to clean the roads.
Just like anyone else. The sources emphasize no difference for anyone, regardless of nationality. That sends a message.
And that sovereignty push even hit the airlines, didn't it?
Oh yeah, the French airline story. That was remarkable.
Landing rights revoked because their online portrayal was seen as negative, affecting investment.
According to the reports, yes. The administration apparently insisted they change their tune, and, well, they did.
And that directly led to Burkina Faso getting its own national airline back on its feet.
That's what our sources confirm. They apparently had no planes before. Now they have one connecting across Africa with plans to grow. It's a practical assertion of control.
Wow. Okay, and this reassertion, it really shows up in economic policy too, especially with gold.
Hugely significant. Historically, you had Canadian, French companies running the mines.
And Burkina Faso only got, what, 10, 20%?
Something like that, yeah. A tiny fraction of the wealth from their own ground. Partly because they lack the gear, the know-how maybe.
So under Traoré.
Well, our sources explain that they've moved to take back direct control. They've bought the equipment needed.
So they can mine it themselves.
Or at least be in a much stronger position to negotiate terms. They decide the prices for their resources now much more actively.
That's a massive shift.
It is. And don't forget cotton, too. They're one of Africa's biggest producers. That's another resource they're focusing on managing for national benefit.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. What about daily life? What does it feel like there, according to our classes?
Well, this is where it gets surprising, maybe. The capital city, Ouagadougou, the energy described is not one of crisis.
Despite the military leadership.
Right. Observers talk about normal life. Women riding motorcycles freely, markets busy.
Yeah.
It challenges those external perceptions of constant tension.
Are there visible changes people notice?
Oh, yeah. Sources mention widespread CCTV cameras now, for traffic control mainly.
And that unique penalty we mentioned, cleaning roads for violations.
Applied universally. Plus, there's a lot of work on infrastructure, road repairs, building new roads into areas that were hard to reach before.
Better connectivity.
Exactly. Linking the country together.
And speaking of new things, that electric car company story is pretty wild.
Let's go, yeah. The CEO apparently came back from Turkey because of the regime change, felt inspired.
And the demand was just instant.
Unbelievable. Started with 12 cars, got orders for 10,000.
Wow. And they're assembled locally now.
Yeah, which brings down the price, uses less energy too.
Yeah.
And they named them after local landmarks, like Mount Tenakaru.
That's a nice touch. Connects it to national identity.
For sure. And crucially, banks offer payment plans, making them more accessible.
So this confidence, is it showing up elsewhere, like real estate?
Seems like it. Our sources mention a real estate boom. There's a new mall going up. Apartments are in high demand.
What kind of prices are we talking?
Well, reports mention things like a house for maybe $100,000 US, 4-bedroom apartments near the big monuments, maybe $400,000, and apparently they're selling fast. Sold out, some reports say.
And you can get mortgages. There are Airbnbs.
Yeah, mortgages are available, and Airbnbs too, around $120 a night in the capital. It suggests things are opening up, at least in some ways.
That definitely paints a picture of, well, some economic activity bubbling up. What about starting a business? Is that easier now?
That seems to be a big change. Our sources say for many types of businesses, you can potentially get set up in just a week.
A week. Compared to what, 4?
Compared to maybe 3 years, according to some accounts, a huge difference.
Okay, but not for everything, right? Some industries must take longer.
Oh, sure. If you need special certification, specialized stuff, it's still a process. But the general process seems much faster.
Are there still challenges for entrepreneurs, though?
Definitely. Accessing finance, like loans, is still tough. Interest rates can be high.
Is the government doing anything about that?
Our sources mention the president himself is pushing banks to support young entrepreneurs more, trying to ease that bottleneck.
And what about the cost of living generally? We hear it's rising.
It is, yeah. Mostly because of what sources call war taxes.
War taxes, what are those for?
It's extra money citizens contribute, specifically earmarked for security efforts, but also social things, like funding hospitals.
How do people feel about paying that?
Well, this is striking. The reports say people are willing to pay with joy. They see it as contributing to the national effort.
It's unusual.
It speaks to a certain level of buy-in. And by the way, countering some things you might see online, our sources are clear. Social media is allowed, people have free speech.
Okay, so what about the people themselves, especially young people, students? What's their perspective?
We heard from university students in our sources. They talked about real improvements. Campus Wi-Fi, which is new.
That's a big deal for students.
Huge. Also, better, cheaper food at the university restaurants. Even new student loan systems being put in place.
And did they feel hopeful? Did they want to stay?
Overwhelmingly, yes. They really pushed back against the idea that you have to go abroad for opportunities. One student literally called it a lie.
What did they say instead?
We have everything here. That was the quote. They're even making their own solar panels now, apparently.
Wow. That sense of national purpose, is it having other effects?
Well, there's this agricultural training program mentioned in the sources. Takes in 150 refugees each month, gives them skills.
That's impactful.
Yeah, and interestingly, some of these refugees, maybe because of things that happened to their families in the past, they're actually choosing to join the army afterwards.
Driven by a desire for security.
It seems so.
Yeah.
A personal connection to protecting the nation.
Okay, but maybe the most unbelievable detail, the one that really stands out.
The human shield.
Yeah. Citizens sleeping on the ground outside the presidential villa to protect Traoré.
Literally acting as a human shield. Unarmed. Just their voices to raise the alarm if needed.
Our sources call it an unprecedented level of loyalty. It's hard to even imagine.
It really is. Extraordinary. And it says so much about the kind of support he seems to have generated.
How do the sources explain that? How does he foster that kind of loyalty?
They describe his style as showing you the way, encouraging people to take part, take ownership.
And he listens, takes feedback.
Apparently, yes. Allows people to voice grievances directly. And he's open about the challenges, explains the difficulties of the work they're doing.
So transparency and shared struggle.
That seems to be the key. It's led to what sources are calling unanimous support, something they say they've never seen before for a leader there.
So looking ahead, what's the big dream for people in Burkina Faso, according to these accounts?
Peace. Above all else, peace. They feel if they can achieve stability and security, everything else is possible.
And there's this real optimism, this almost cinematic vision.
Yeah, that Wakanda Forever idea comes up.
Yeah.
A future where Burkina Faso is self-sufficient, technologically advanced, proud.
People really believe it's possible.
They seem incredibly confident. You hear things like, come back in 2 or 3 years and you will see what's happened here. A real conviction.
What a journey through these sources today. It's just, it's remarkable how different the picture looks compared to some headlines.
Isn't it? That contrast between the external narrative of instability and this palpable hope and determination on the ground.
Yeah, this deep dive really shows a nation trying hard to assert its sovereignty, use its own resources.
And fostering this intense national pride, this collective responsibility, that unanimous support, the human shield. It really makes you think about leadership, doesn't it?
It really does, about what direct, transparent leadership focused on self-reliance can achieve.
Or at least what people believe it can achieve.
So what does this all mean for the wider continent, for Africa? Burkina Faso's path, as our sources describe it, it really challenges the usual ideas about development, about governance.
It certainly does.
What really stands out to you, think about how a nation transforms itself when the people seem so deeply bought in, so invested.
That level of popular mobilization and belief is powerful. Can it be sustained? Can it translate vision into lasting reality? That's the big question.
Definitely something to chew on until our next deep dive.